This is Beyond the Moon, a Ditch Witch podcast where we dig deep into news, job site stories, Ditch Witch culture, and all the other dirt that makes up the industry.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Moon, a Ditch Witch podcast. I'm your host, Sean Hubbard, and I'm with Mr. Cory Maker today. Cory, ironically enough, I think has the title manager or management or some form of manage multiple times in his title.
No, that's for sure. That's one of the things that we look at from our position within the industry is, you know, we manage whether it's product, the digital tools that go on those job sites, but no, it's definitely unique for the industry. Yeah,
and we'll get into that here in a little bit. We'll talk to Cory about his responsibilities and the team that works for him and works for Subsite. So we'll dive into that. But first, I wanted to give a quick shout out to all of our followers on Facebook and Instagram for the Ditch Witch account. So this year we've been celebrating 75 years of trenching or being in business. So our founder in 1949 invented the first service line trencher. So we've had a social media campaign going on that's like 75 years strong, and we've been putting up some old photos of some old equipment. We have a J20 that we posted earlier this summer, and the reaction from our fans and our followers has been insane. Like, so many people love our old equipment, and we love seeing the pictures that a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, I had one of those, or I run something similar for the last 30 years. So it's pretty cool. So I just wanted to say thanks to all you guys out there that look at Ditch Witch Facebook and Instagram and all of our social media channels and share that all your content back with us. So that's awesome. But hopping in today, like I said, we got Cory Maker, who is manager of product marketing management.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Yep.
Good deal. So fun fact about Mr. Maker here. I've been with the company for a little over 6 years. Cory will tell you he's been here much longer than that. But as I was just kind of getting my feet wet in the Ditch Witch world, it was very evident to me that Cory hated me. He wouldn't speak to me. It wasn't nothing to do with me. So we've come a long ways, but can you corroborate that story?
Yeah. So obviously when having that conversation, especially now that we can have that conversation, looking back, a lot of that was just my face.
It is your face.
It is my face.
Yeah.
And I try to fix it all the time.
Well, you've got it hidden now.
Yeah, no, it's very RBF.
Yeah.
But again, you know, that's something that I deal with, you know, on a pretty common basis because whether it's the beard, my face, whatever, I'm probably not the most approachable person.
Yeah, you're a nice guy, big teddy bear.
Right. Well, and that was the nice thing about COVID for me is I got to wear a mask, so I was very approachable.
That's right. Nobody was scared of Cory during COVID. Yeah, it was great.
Yep.
But yeah, we kind of broke through the ice on one of our first road trips. Well, we probably had some encouragement in doing so, but it was nice to get to know you a little bit and realize that maybe Cory doesn't hate me. He's not a bad person. So we get along pretty well now, so it's been good. But I do think the fact that I thought he was a little bit anti-Sean Hubbard may lead into the fact that, of some of the stuff that you do in your private life. I know you can talk about your car a little bit that you've built, but what else? You're kind of a handyman, a little bit of a engineer of sorts. Like, what do you do? Can you tell the folks what it is you do at your home shop? So
a lot of the things that really interest me or infatuate me are things mechanical. Sean alluded to my car a little bit. You know, I've built a supercharged car that makes about 850 horsepower. I have a lot of other hobbies that, you know, don't necessarily relate to cars, but like even my background within the division of electrical and hydraulic things, working on anything I can get my hands on, fixing things that are broken, but also have an IT degree that also have a business management degree. So whenever I start looking at some of the stuff, the aspects of what I like to deal with, whether it's, you know, cars, guns, things like that, I really got into the mechanics of guns whenever I started having those conversations of just how they work, right? I mean, there's so many fine lines to like how things work and understanding that and building them yourselves and even more understanding of how they function. Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was alluding to was the guns part. Made me nervous. This guy doesn't like me. He's heavily armed. He builds his own. What's going to happen? No, and it's one of those things, too. I mean, it's one of those things to take your mind off work. It's a really good hobby. Do just about whatever you want. I mean, they're so customizable, just like cars and other things like that. But even computers, taking things apart, figuring out why they're broken. I mean, it's always been something that really intrigued me. You're just a tinkerer at heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Your ditch. How long you've been there forever?
I've been there 20 years now.
Okay. So how does that start? Where did you start? How did that become a thing you were interested in?
So 20 years of my 38 years here on Earth, right?
Yeah.
I actually started in the machine shop just right out of high school. And, it was something where I was going to go to college, so I worked nights my first 6 years at Ditch Witch. And towards the end of my college career, there were several opportunities opening up because we were growing at a very fast pace at that time.
Well, that was back in the 60s?
Almost.
Yeah.
It feels like it some days, especially with a lot of the newer, younger guys coming into the market today. But honestly, looking at it now, I didn't necessarily approach it as a start of a career.
Right.
I thought it as I was going to work nights while I went to school for my IT degree. I was going to go do something else. And I quickly realized, the family aspect of the division itself is Ditch Witch, and saw a lot of people that have moved up through there in their career opportunities. And soon as I got done with my degree, there was an opportunity to be basically a product support representative for the directional drills. And I was able to accept that position. I covered all of Canada, Alaska, Hawaii, and got to travel a ton, which was something I didn't really expect. So I grew up in a town of about 300 people. It hadn't really been anywhere. But then I went from product support to regional sales manager to the product manager of the directional drills, and now the manager of Subsites, product management.
So you touched a lot of components of the business.
A lot of things.
Is there one that you preferred over the other? I know you're a tinkerer, so did you like the machinist part of it, or like what?
I did enjoy that, and that was something that was relatively new to me. I mean, I kind of understood it, but they said, "Hey, you're going to go to this GD&T class," and I'm like, "A what?"
Yeah.
And it's
well, that's what I was about to ask you. What does that mean?
They send you to a class where it's geometrical tolerances and dimensions.
Oh, I can't even spell those.
And you're trying to learn how to read prints. So you're machining a part to these specific things, right? So that was something that was very intriguing to me because, we're talking tolerances of a couple of thousand, so things that make our equipment very unique, right? Because we design and build specifically for our industry. So seeing those tolerances, the things that are thought up, and at that time I was machining parts I didn't even know what they went to.
Right.
So
I don't know what this is or where it goes, but this is what I'm doing.
And I think as that career progression happened, when I get to product support, I start seeing these parts I used to make and where they go and what they are. It really opened my eyes to that, and then the electrical and hydraulic piece of it also.
No, that's awesome. So Cory was, I think we talked about it just a little bit. Cory was a product manager over the smaller drills when I started at Ditch Witch, when he had a strong disliking for me. My job as a PR guy is to make sure that Cory doesn't say anything goofy as a product manager, position him in a place
you do a very good job of that,
where he can succeed. And he says that nicely because I was going to tell a quick story. Actually, Cory might be able to tell it better, but we had just launched JT24 at a trade show in Louisville, IQ now.
Utility Expo.
Yep. That's what it is. So it's a huge show for us. JT24 is going to be a massive launch. It was a big deal. So I was sending Cory through the media car wash, just interview after interview after interview. It's 120 degrees. Cory's sweating to death. It's dusty because all of our equipment's running. And I had a pretty detailed schedule for what it was going to look like all day. And then I look over, and during a dead time when Cory wasn't supposed to be doing an interview, or I didn't think he was supposed to be doing an interview, I look over and there's a video camera crew in his face, and they're interviewing him about the JT24.
So the funny thing is I had this schedule that Sean had printed out, and there was a ton on there. I think there was 10 that day.
Yeah.
And I had a quick break, and I ran over, and we had this little hut that we basically keep everything in, from water, everything we need for the show. And I had hurried up and ran over there. Well, it's one of those little portable buildings that I walk into. I get a water, and I turned around, walk out, and I had some sunglasses on, and I hit my face as I was walking out because I didn't duck down, and I actually broke my sunglasses. So they were kind of crooked on my face, and I didn't even realize it because I was getting back over to the piece of equipment because I knew I had another interview coming up.
Right.
And I get back over there, and these people are sitting there like they were waiting on me, and I just, me not knowing, just assumed they were there early.
Like, oh, next up. Okay,
and
here we go.
Sean gets over there, and my glasses are kind of crooked on my face, and I ended up seeing the video a couple weeks later on YouTube, and I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it looks so good. Hey, good job, Sean, letting that happen with cockeyed glasses. So anyways, yeah, that was Cory Maker, and that was how we started. So that may have been a reason for you to not like me, but we were past that.
Yeah, we were past that.
But yeah, so now you're over on the Subsite team.
Yep.
Manager of product management, product marketing management. Yep. That's hard to say. So you talk a lot about smart, connected job sites. orange intel, telematics, and stuff like that. For those of us that are not IT folks or even in the industry, really, what does that mean? What is a smart connected job site, and what is Subsite doing to kind of drive that?
So probably the most relatable thing for people that don't understand our industry would be, whenever you buy an Apple product and you go buy that product, there's several different products that go along with it, whether those AirPods, other connected devices.
Right.
If you have an Apple ID, you have the Apple ID for the cell phone, the iPad, all the other things go along with it, and they're designed to work together. So when we start talking about a smart connected job site, the division itself, when we talk about Ditch Witch, is in a very unique position. Because not only do we manufacture the equipment, a lot of companies do that. What we do, though, is not only do we manufacture it, we also design all of the machine controls, the electronics in-house.
Right.
But then we also collaborate with other parts of the industry, whether that's HDD guidance, utility locating, and then the UI product line for utility inspection. And there's not a whole lot of people out there today that cover that vast portfolio of product that can actually say that they can communicate on that job site. Because we're in a very digital world now. I mean, we're wanting to map and do everything that we're doing underground. And there's so many things on the back end side to make that possible, whether that's making sure it's in the correct APIs, things like that. Because we're getting ready to walk into the future where the digital data from that job site is going to be more important than the equipment doing the work.
So let's take a step back here for any listeners or viewers that may not be familiar with Ditch Witch or Subsite or how they work together. I will do an elementary level introduction here and let Cory kind of explain how that works out. But Ditch Witch, the orange iron machine, that is built strictly to install things underground.
Yep.
Right? So we have a directional drill that's going to go subsurface and go out, poke out a hole, attach onto a utility, and it's going to pull it back. Without Subsite and the equipment that Subsite makes, those drillers are going blind, right? It's
Yep.
like, I don't know where it's going.
Yep.
So can you kind of talk about that relationship and how Subsite and Ditch Witch are so connected and why it's important that those machines can communicate with each other?
Yep. So obviously Subsite's been around for a long time with the division, and there's
Right.
other electronics manufacturers out there. But we were the first ones to take the step of fully integrating that technology with a directional drill or the other products for that matter when it comes down to telematics and Orange Intel and that data collaboration. But the big thing with that is when you start talking about a job site, whether it's the piece of equipment, the ergonomics that the guy's sitting on there, putting things in the right place like it's meant to be there.
Right.
Because so much of this other stuff in the marketplace is aftermarket and it gets put somewhere. But that's probably been the biggest determining factor for us is being able to develop that, knowing that this data age is coming where the data piece of this is going to be so important to the end user, all the way down to the guy that, the utilities that they're doing the work for. And that's part of the conversation that we continue to have. We just had that this last week at the Fiber Connect show, because if you think the millions of miles of utilities that are underground today, and then plus what we're doing with all the infrastructure dollars that are being allocated now, is we need to know where that stuff's at.
Right.
I mean, one, from a damage mitigation standpoint, but also looking at it as just an overall understanding of what's going on underground.
That's what you mean when you're talking about mapping.
Yep.
Right? You can't see it. So there's a mapping component to everything that's existing, right?
Yep.
And Subsite makes that equipment
Yep.
in utility locators. We have a new product out, Subsite UtiliGuard 2 RTK.
Yep.
Right? That's what that piece of equipment does.
So, and it's, we've had products that have done that in the past, but not to the level of accuracy that you get with RTK.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that really stands out to what we're trying to do with the industry today when we start talking about mapping and Esri and just the overall output that you get. Because, if you think today, like you walk around with a GPS on your cell phone, that's recreational grade.
Right.
But when you start talking about the level of accuracy on these job sites where you're getting ready to go out there and do the work and you look at like the map that's existing versus something that's like RTK with centimeter grade accuracy. And then you're able to do a walk back to feature where you actually walk back to that and you're going to pothole that. It just makes you that much more efficient also.
Right. What are the benefits for contractors, both on the like the Ditch Witch side, the drilling side, and then the contractors that are locating those utilities? What are the benefits of like the simplification that Subsite's been able to work into their equipment?
So a lot of it comes down to making the ease of use something that they can just throw into a job site that's existing today.
Right. You just push a button and
Right. Yeah. Just having that level of automation makes it a lot simpler. But then also looking at it from the aspect of the safety benefits you get from it, the overall efficiency gains, because in a lot of cases, most of our industries today, I mean, they're so loaded up with work because of the infrastructure dollars, and they're trying to look for a cleaner way of doing that. So when I say efficiency, not only is it the job site efficiency, but it's the paperwork efficiency on the backside also.
Right. You get paid faster.
You get paid faster. I mean, you're able
Right.
to show real time your work is done.
Okay, so that's from the contractor side. Let's look at it from a little bit different perspective. Maybe some of our viewers or listeners are in this boat that they're not in the industry. Do they have any vested interest, or why does just a regular dude like Sean Hubbard care that Subsite and Ditch Witch can partner and make sure that nothing crazy happens?
So I guess the easiest thing, right? One of the taglines that we continue to say is like, what we do matters, right?
Right.
So when we look at it from that aspect, what we do matters because these utilities that are being placed in the ground are things that we use in our day-to-day lives. So if you can imagine having a high level of accuracy map, and if something happens, right? If you're at your home over the weekend and you lose water or you lose gas or you lose fiber or something, that level of accuracy allows them to go out there and make those repairs, the rehab, so much faster because they know exactly where it's at. So in a lot of cases, I mean, it's being able to have those creature comforts that are associated to just your day-to-day life, and just makes that, more plausible when you look at, like, this is what we are doing. Because a lot of times today, if a water line's hitting your neighborhood, especially here in Oklahoma, because a lot of our maps are still, hand-drawn, especially in some of the rural areas, that they may spend 2 days trying to figure out where it was.
You mentioned hand-drawn maps, and that seems so old school, and it's because it is old school, right?
Yep.
But I've heard you tell stories before, and I don't know that we need to throw the municipality out, but there was a certain map that this municipality had where a water line was located, and it was on the wrong side of the street.
Correct. Well, and that's kind of how you look at it, right? Nothing that's out there when I say hand-drawn is right, wrong, or indifferent. It was the technology we had at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have a lot of the equipment doing the work today that are still hand-drawn as-builts when they get done. So, in those cases, that's where we're starting to see a lot of the guidelines, the rules changing, whether it's legislation or, particular cities that are looking at the technology that's available out there today to go do that. If you take a camera system out and inspect all the existing utilities today, there's a way to map that. And we're still having people do that today that aren't, utilizing the technology to go do that.
Yeah. So real quick, and we don't want to go down a rabbit hole here because I think it'll go, it'll get a little bit intense. But we've talked for the last, year and a half, 2 years, maybe about out in California, and I'm going to mess up the number probably, but State Senate Bill 865.
Yep.
Did I guess that right?
That's right.
What does that mean? What is that? That's a pre and post inspection. What does that mean for those of us that don't do that?
So a lot of the guidelines behind that is, the mapping of the new as-builts.
Okay.
That are going on, but it's helping feed the backside of the existing utilities. And that's one of the things that we're starting to see change. We've seen some of that in the European markets already. The UK were kind of early adopters of starting to map their underground utilities because they saw an immediate change. Even at CGA 2 years ago, Steve Sellenrich's group got up there, and they've been one of the early adopters here domestically, and they saw a 60% reduction in damages in the first year by doing things from a digital standpoint, which is huge when you look at the DIRT report, and there's 230,000 strikes a year.
Yeah, Sellenrich's kind of a pioneer in that space, right?
Definitely.
A little bit of a rock star.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. So, yeah, I wanted to just throw another quick story out there real quick. I feel like this informal interview that we had is good. You're dressed appropriately. I'm dressed appropriately. But I wanted to share with our listeners, too, that there was a time when Cory was interviewed in this roundtable deal with a bunch of CEOs and important folks at other manufacturers around the country, and they were going to do a photo shoot. It was on like a staircase, maybe.
Yep.
Where were we at? Minnesota?
Yep.
Yeah, we were in Minneapolis. And Cory specifically asked me that morning, do I need to wear a sport coat? And I was like, nah, I think you're good. I think this is a pretty informal deal. We should be good. And then we show up to the roundtable discussion. And what was the scene?
Everyone was in sports coats.
Almost everyone.
And, I look back now and, there were some pretty good things following that just in our conversations. And I have this very memorable picture sitting on my desk now that Sean had redone for me to make sure that I was in, a sports coat and,
looks great.
And a nice tie.
Yeah, so as far as everyone's concerned in Perry, you had a sport coat.
Correct.
Yeah, it might have been hand-drawn, but there was one on. Okay, as we wrap up here, I did want to ask Cory just a kind of a random question here. So you have multiple degrees. You've held multiple positions within the Ditch Witch division. You're a little bit of a tinkerer. You're kind of a gearhead type of person. What did 6-year-old Cory Maker want to be when he grew up? Was it a manager of product marketing management?
I can say no. And it's funny, I just had this conversation with my daughter because she's 8 years old. And I tend to ask her a lot, like, what do you want to do? And I vaguely remember this because I remember in like third grade having an interview on camera with my teacher of what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Right.
And at that time, I wanted to be a firefighter.
I knew it. That's what I would have guessed.
Yeah. So my mom was.
It's not too late.
She was like the chief editor for the International Fire Service Training Association.
Oh, I got you.
So I grew up around that. So I was very confident, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Until I realized what that really entailed, and then I decided that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
It's not like I was just going to walk up and hawk Tua on that fire and try to put it out. So.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Oh, that's classic. Well, Cory, I wanted to say thank you for being a guest on the show today. I appreciate you being here. And with that, I think we'll sign off. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next time.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Moon. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and follow us on social media @Ditch Witch.